It's just me and you.
What's up everyone? Today we're going to be looking at how to play Dark Willow as support. Dark Willow is a ranged intelligence hero and she's got an array of disables and nukes. Therefore she's usually played as a support, however there are instances where she goes mid as well. In this particular video however, we'll be looking at how I played Dark Willow and the choices I made in terms of her skill build, laning, item choices as well as the talent tree selection. Alright, so let's see what Mireska Sunbreeze has to offer as her first spell. Bramble Maze is Dark Willow's first skill and it is a large AoE ability. Essentially what Bramble Maze does is that it roots any hero that comes into contact with one of the 8 brambles that Dark Willow places in a large area. The Bramble Maze has 2 damage components. One is the latch damage, which is about 200 damage at its highest level, and of course it has a damage over time component which does about 80 damage for over 2.5 seconds of the root at its maximum level. Oh, and did I forget to mention that this spell has a cast range of a whopping 1200 units. What can a little fairy do when she's in trouble? She can go into the Shadow Realm, and that's exactly what Mireska does when she's in a spot of bother. Shadow Realm causes Dark Willow to be untargetable and she can be inside the Shadow Realm for a maximum of 5 seconds, and her next attack will have increased attack range and deal bonus magic damage and will end Shadow Realm. The damage is based on how long she remains under the effect of Shadow Realm, and the maximum being reached after 3.5 seconds. Cursed Crown is Dark Willow's stun, and what she does is she casts this curse on an enemy, and after a delay of about 4 seconds it stuns the target and any nearby enemies around a 325 radius for 3.5 or 3.25 seconds. You can combo this stun with the Yule Sept of Divinities. So essentially what you gotta do is you first apply the stun and then you use the enemy, and when the enemy comes down he or she is definitely gonna get stunned right after the Yule's effect ends. I'm sure you've noticed this little cute guy around Dark Willow all the time. Well, this guy is a freaking monster and he can do some serious damage. Bedlam is one of my favorite Dark Willow spells. Dark Willow will release this cute little pet of hers called Jex, and he's gonna start dancing around Dark Willow in a 300 radius AoE, and he'll start attacking anyone within a 0.25 interval, and he'll also do 175 damage for each of those attacks, and this whole thing lasts for 5 whopping seconds. So this means he can dish out a serious amount of damage. And if you thought Jex can only damage people, well, you thought wrong. Dark Willow, after about a 2.5 second cast time, releases Jex into this 400 unit AoE, and any enemy caught inside this AoE is gonna get feared. This is her final ability, and you could call it her ultimate ability as well, and it's called Terrorize. At its highest level, it's on an 80-second cooldown and it fears the enemy for 4 seconds. This is one of my favorite Dark Willow spells and it can be game breaking if used correctly. As you may have already understood, you can use it for counter initiations or even to disengage certain fights, and one of my favorite uses of this spell is to cast it on the Rosh pit when I know that the enemy is doing Roshan, and it's just easy pickings for my team. So my starting items for Dark Willow in this match is 2 sets of tangos. I've given 2 tangos to my mid lane of course, 2 iron branches, a mango and a windlace. So you might probably ask why the windlace so early. Well, the reasoning behind this is that I'll be going off against a Legion commander who has very good movement speed, and also the fact that the Legion actually can try to zone out the Medusa with the help of the Sand King. So I thought, having a little bit of extra movement speed might help me to get into position better, and of course I can later on upgrade this into a Yule Scepter, drums perhaps, or even let's say tranquil boots. Okay, so usually when I start laning as Dark Willow, I get 1 skill point in the Bramble Maze, and then I start maxing my Shadow Realm with 1 point in the Cursed Crown. However, in this match, the kill potential for me and the Medusa is almost negligible. Therefore, I thought I might as well get the protective spells, which are the Bramble Maze and the Cursed Crown. An interesting use of the Shadow Realm ability is to make use of the bonus attack range that it gives to break regen items, consumables perhaps, and also to snipe couriers. After about 10 minutes into the game, I now have my boots. I also have completed the magic wand. I've also opted to go for a ring of Bassi, simply because I thought the mana regen would help the Medusa in some way, I guess. 16.5 minutes into the game, I just buy my arcane boots here. Opted for the arcane boots for obvious reasons, because they do have a diffusal blade PL and we have a Medusa, and in general the arcane boots is gonna help me. Also note that I have opted for some raindrops because they do have a lot of magic damage, and this certainly will help me to survive the majority of the team fights and make sure that I cast all my spells to help out my allies. So let's talk a bit about Miriska's gameplay. The first thing you gotta understand is Miriska is not tanky by any means. So she's not the ideal hero to be frontlining any team fight. But what she can do is counter initiate, or initiate for that matter. And she can do this really well because of her kit. One of the best neutral items you can have as a Dark Willow position 5 is the telescope, of course. It's gonna bolster the range of all your spells, and you can also notice now I have a glimmer cape that's gonna help me and my allies to try and kite the PL and also almost every right clicker they have, and also to mitigate some of the magic damage that the Radiant team can inflict. Generally, as a Dark Willow, your gameplay would be to babysit your carry, and then when it comes to team fights, of course, try and lock down as much as possible the enemy heroes by casting Bramble Mazes and the Cursed Crowns. You can also gank if your carry is doing fine in his lane. You can leave him and then switch over to the mid lane maybe with a smoke, and probably at level 3 I think you're one of the good gankers if your mid is one of those early game tempo making heroes. When I'm ganking with Dark Willow, I usually try and make sure that I proc the Cursed Crown while the enemy is still inside the Bramble Maze AoE, so that we have enough time to get to the enemy and that he will not have much of an escape route. I try and as much as possible use the tree line to my advantage, and since my Bramble Maze has such a long cast range, I hide in the tree lines, I cast a Bramble Maze to trap an enemy, and then I move closer to cast the Cursed Crown, and then I get even closer using the Shadow Realm because that allows me to be non-targetable, and then I finish the enemy off using my Bedlam. The AoE fear given by Terrorize is amazing at disengaging and sometimes counter-initiating on fights. But you need to make sure when you use Terrorize that do you actually want your enemies to run away from you, or do you want them to stay where they are? Because of that, you need to think twice whether you really need to use your Terrorize, unless of course it is a dire situation where you have to really save your course, or whether you really need to get out of danger. Item choices for Dark Willow can vary depending on your match, but generally for Dark Willow I would almost always recommend something like a Glimmer Cape, a Yule Scepter to combo with your Cursed Crown. A 4-staff is a great addition to the arsenal of Dark Willow. It'll allow you to sort of escape certain AoE abilities of enemies. However, there's one thing that you need to remember: you are unable to 4-staff yourself while you are in Shadow Realm. A Rod of Atos is another great item on Dark Willow. It'll help you to align your Bramble Maces or even proc Cursed Crowns. You can also pick up a Blink Dagger if you think that you need better positioning in team fights, or if you think that you can jump in on an enemy and cast Bedlam and instantly nuke the enemy. My talent tree selection for support Dark Willow is quite straightforward. Basically, you go for all the talents on the left side. So this means that I will get the 100 cast range at level 10, the plus 30 movement speed at level 15, and minus 10 second Bramble Maze cooldown at level 20. And of course, if the game does go that far at level 25, I would get the plus 1.3 terrorize duration. But of course, these all could change in the grand scheme of things. You might want to go for the bedlam damage if your team is doing quite well, and if you are able to initiate onto the enemy carries or the enemy cores easily. The plus 50 damage and the plus 110 attack speed are good if you are taking the carry route or the core route for Dark Willow. However, since this is about support Dark Willow, I would highly recommend that you stick to the talents on the left side of the talent tree. Alright guys, so that's it for this guide of how to play support Dark Willow. Until we meet again in the next video, it's GG who well played.
It's just me.